Alrighty, so we are here. We are here. So as y'all know, Hogwarts Legacy drops this week, and and let's just say that you already know I'm getting it, and I'm gonna be a complete and total menace over there. But what about y'all? What would y'all do in Hogwarts?
Oh, you can take this first.
You said, what would I do?
Yeah, what would you do in there?
Honestly, I don't really know because it's like I'm not really part of like the Harry Potter fandom anymore. So I don't know.
See, I don't think I would be evil like you, Meech, but I think I would be petty. So I think it would just be like, oh, wait, what did you say, NPC character? Frog. And just kind of like keep it moving like that is what I would probably be doing.
Oh, so you just one step below me. Oh, that's
One step
crazy.
below.
Hmm. Sounds like a perfect analogy for our entire friendship. Uh,
That's messed up. See, you're like first degree, and I'm like second degree when it comes to crimes. So like, it's not intended. It's just like, it's heat of the moment.
Hashtag how to get away with murder. That's how I get through with life.
Our girl Viola Davis.
Hmm.
All right, so I'm Demetrius,
And I'm Demetrius,
and Meech and Meech presents.
the Blurred City Podcast.
All right, so we got a good one here today. This is an episode that we've been hyping recently. We have a special guest on, Jade Aurora. We're going to be covering her book today. We're going to get more in depth to just like introductions, even covering the book, full discussion. And Meech, if you just kind of want to like introduce slightly before we get into the real introduction.
Yes. So, of course, this is also kind of like a semi endorsement of the Famicom group. Like they reached out to us, wanted us to join their Discord, join the Instagram, and of course, one of our compatriots, Jade Aurora here, reached out and wanting to, get more exposure on her and just have an interview just so like, hey, the good peoples gets to get more exposure on her and like her endeavors and everything of that nature. So we're really glad to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. So, just want to introduce myself for those that are listening. My name is Jade Aurora. I'm based in Detroit, Michigan. So, I am an artist and illustrator. As they stated before, I am the author of the Motor City Witches series, which first released in 2020. I'm also a cosplayer, a pinup model, and I am also a burlesque performer.
Dope. So we're gonna get soon into our introductions, but Meech, you know how it is. We always hit the people with the legal spiegel.
Especially after what I just said. So the purpose of this podcast is to explore digital and print media. All sources we reference are owned by the respective companies, and our thoughts and opinions are strictly our own and reflect no biases or corporate agendas. Your discretion is advised.
All right, dope. So before we get into it, we always talk about what's hot. So that's our segment where we touch on some of like what's going on in pop culture, the nerd realm of nerddom, just like the hottest things that are going on. There's one thing that I want to touch on, and that's the DC news with what's hot. But it's going to be a bigger discussion. So if we can save that for like the end of it. But what's the two things that you two have seen that's hot so far?
Ooh, that's a hard question. I think lately, I think it's the Wednesday series that I've seen.
Oh yeah,
Like,
fantastic.
like I'm a huge fan of the Addams Family, so
Yeah, that show was definitely dope. Anything else before we go to Meech?
now you can go ahead. So far, that's kind of the only thing so far.
Yeah, and just keeping it brief. Of course, anime scene's kind of going wild. My Hero Academia finally reached the point that I loved in the manga.
The Dark Hero.
Yep. So I'm hyped about that. And then, Last of Us is just
Phew. Wow.
beautiful, just beautiful.
Wow.
I'm not gonna say more on it, especially considering that at the time of this recording, I haven't seen episode 4 yet. But I'm sure I probably would have a mix of emotions, and you guys will know about it in our Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for anything else you mentioned at the start of the show, Hogwarts Legacy, I believe it drops sometime this week. I'm not sure. Is it the 10th?
So it's 7th for those who pre-ordered it, the 10th for everybody else.
Okay, so it's going to drop very soon. Also, with that, Knock at the Cabin just dropped last week. I haven't seen it yet. I've been having some maladies that I've been dealing with, but I will be
I've seen
catching
it.
it soon. I know. Was it fire?
Oh, it was definitely an interesting movie. I'll tell you that much.
All right. And for the big news that I kind of mentioned, so DC dropped its plan for first stage essentially, and what it's going to be for 2025. So I'm just going to read it off real quick. First opening up, it's called Gods and Monsters. So it's going to open up with Superman Legacy, which is a movie, The Brave and the Bold, which is a Batman and Robin story, which is going to have Robin as Damian Wayne in that movie, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is a movie, The Authority, another movie, Swamp Thing, another movie, and then Creature Commandos, which is a animated TV show, Waller, a TV show, Lantern. It's they said it's going to be a true detective style with Hal and Jon Stewart. So they semi stole our idea, but we're good. Booster Gold, which is going to be hilarious, and then Paradise Lost. So any thoughts on that?
I mean, where's my money, DC? That's my first one, but I think like for me, it primarily is just like I'm really interested to see because like when I listen to James Gunn's like commentary and like how his ambitions, like, oh yeah, everybody who's like throughout the animated stuff, the video games and whatnot, everybody's gonna be voiced by the same people. I'm like, ooh, that's quite a tall order to ask, sir. But I'm sure like there are like possibilities. I'm really interested in the Authority though, because like they are a wild group and like I'm just like, oh snap, we actually getting into them. That is something you don't see every day. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, he said it's like a passion project for him. So you know how he is with Suicide Squad that he made, and then also Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's really good with like quirky team things. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. And then with DC dropping in 2025, we'll see what happens now. I know well, we have a few things coming up that we're going to review, and then The Flash is going to be a super big movie for DC moving forward. But just relax, Mitch. We'll talk about that another time. But that's definitely something that we're looking forward to. So now we can get into just the introductions with that. So, Mitch, you can take over.
Yeah. So Jade, I know you decided to give yourself a little bit of an introduction, but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's talk about you. Like, who are you? Like, and what got you into the nerd culture?
So to be quite honest, I think being like nerdiness kind of runs in my family. So, my parents are kind of young, like they're like 15, 17 years older than I am. So they've been into like nerd culture. Like I grew up watching shows like Thundercats. My dad is a fan of the Hellsing manga. And like one of my first introduction into anime for real was like Sailor Moon. That was my gateway. I was 7 years old when I started watching it, and even when I was 7, my grandma used to watch the show with me because she was a seamstress, and she actually made a Sailor Moon costume for me to wear for Halloween. So I guess that was kind of my gateway. It's always been something that I kind of grew up around. If that makes any sense, hopefully I'm not rambling.
Yeah, no, that's pretty dope. Like a lot of us mentioned, I know Meech and I, when we first introduced the show, we talked about like how it wasn't really that prevalent in our families, like the nerd culture part of it, where like Meech, you in the horror aspect you did, but like the kind of realm of like anime and all that, no, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was dry as a bone, but hey, Toonami out here
Yeah.
exposing us all to the greatness.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have next question?
Yeah, just with that, you kind of mentioned favorite shows. Did you have any like favorite characters that you connected to growing up that you liked as well?
So I would say, I'm honestly, my favorite character would have to be like, as far as anime character growing up, it was Sailor Moon, definitely. Because like she was like, it was like the first anime that I saw that I felt was like made for girls. Because like my cousins were into anime too. Like one of my cousins, he's 2 years older than me. He was a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z. and I was more of a fan of Sailor Moon. But if you add like the character I related to the most at that age was Sailor Moon growing up. Now, as far as non-anime, my favorite character growing up would have to be I liked Catwoman and Poison Ivy from like the Batman animated series. So that's a yeah.
That's dope. It's cool that you mentioned Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z because there's a question that always pops up. Can Sailor Moon beat Goku?
Absolutely, because when you have to look like when you look at the facts, and this is not me being a Sailor Moon fangirl, but it's like Sailor Moon is not just like the princess of the moon, she is the moon itself. Sailor Moon and the rest of the Sailor Guardians are celestial beings. So it's like I feel like their power kind of outweighs Goku. Like Sailor Moon is powerful enough to destroy an entire galaxy.
Meech, thoughts, your rebuttal.
No, I'm not going to stir the pot on this one. It's like because of the fact like it's two different fandoms, two different power scaling aspects
Yeah.
to it. So like it in my opinion, it very well could go to either.
Yeah.
Depending on like which version of Goku you going with. Like, are we talking the most recent one to where I think like he possibly could edge it out? Or are we talking about like from our days, like back in GT days, to where Sailor Moon probably could put Goku in a pack, but yeah, I'm not gonna stir too much of the fandoms on either side. And I just say like, yeah, could go definitely both. But as Stan Lee once said, the main person who will win is whoever the writers need to win.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so you want to ask the next question, Meech?
Oh yeah, for sure. So like when it comes to this life and this nerd life, I know you said like you grew up in it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you had to stay in it. So like how come you never left it?
I just felt there was really no need to leave it. It's like also not even just my family, it's just like all the friends that I have in my life, they're nerds themselves. So it's just it had like me, the best friend I had, we've been friends since the second grade. Like we literally bonded over our love for Sailor Moon. And that just kind of stuck with us. I met my husband through nerd culture because we met at an anime convention. So it's like I felt like there was really no need to leave it. It's like why leave something that genuinely brings you joy or something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, I like that you said that. That's definitely cool. And it also like kind of ties into aspects of your book once we get to it. And
Yeah.
so just with that last question before we move to Motor City, which is what are you into now?
So I'm definitely into My Hero Academia. I'm definitely into My Hero Academia. I'm as far as new anime, I'm also a fan of Demon Slayer. That's another favorite of mine. It's like even though it's an old anime, like Soul Eater is another huge favorite, and it's like I'm really hoping they do a reboot because the ending to the original anime was just
the ending was terrible. But yeah, definitely like that. So now we're gonna switch over, introduce the book Motor City Witches, which we both read. So Mitch, you want to kick off the just general discussion before we just like dive into the Q&A part?
Oh yeah, so this is a pretty interesting and fascinating book on like with Motor City Witches, but I just do want to preface right that we're not gonna get into spoilers at all. Like we're most gonna talk about the book in and of itself and just how we are like how much like we like it and some things we had about it, and also just like get into insights with Jade over certain characters. But we're not gonna get into spoilers because what we want you all to do is
y'all gonna have to read the book for that.
Exactly. You got to get it from the source yourself. So we don't want to take any of that away from Jade.
Yeah. So just with that, what kind of gave the inspiration for the book when you were like in the starting stages of it?
So that's basically for context. Like growing up, I used to write like little short stories as a hobby, and I've always been a huge fan of the fantasy genre. Like as a kid, I was heavily into Harry Potter. I also used to watch shows like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and even old school shows like Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie. Like, you know, when they had Nick at Night back in the day, like when I was supposed to be in bed, I would stay up to watch episodes of those. But it's just what gave me inspiration to write it is in this genre, there isn't a lot of representation for us. Like if there are any Black characters or characters of color, they're either tokens or they're background characters. And I kind of wanted to write a story that centers us and like our experiences. So that's kind of what spawned the idea for me writing it. So
Nice, nice. That's really dope. The aspect of like making it by us, so that way we have that full perspective and like you get a real like, hey, this is what really happens, and you just draw in the Black community just like that. Really do appreciate that. And I also love the fact like when you say like, oh yeah, I wrote a bunch of short stories and then I started writing, I'm like, oh my goodness, that was me.
yeah.
That was me middle school, high school, and even part of college.
Oh yeah, and I'm not going to talk about the fan fiction I used to write. So.
We ain't getting into that one today because
that's a Patreon special.
That is a whole other conversation. Like if I just bring up my entire catalog, that is 2 episodes at least.
I didn't know you're a fan fiction writer too.
Yeah.
Look.
Like when I was in high school, my cousin and I, because my cousin, I didn't know this cousin existed until a family reunion, and we like bonded over Harry Potter. Like we actually collaborated on a Harry Potter fan fiction where like it was like in his 7th year of Hogwarts, and he was just like sleeping around with all the girls like in Hogwarts and shit like that. It was wild, and it was something that 17-year-old shouldn't have been writing, but.
Fair. And just for the listeners, can you give like a quick overview of the story, kind of like if they were to pick it up off the shelves and the back of the book kind of summary? Can you give that for the listeners?
So basically, Motor City Witches, it centers on 3 characters, Rochelle, Sarai, and Louise. They're all in their early 20s. They all live in Detroit. And basically, Rochelle's struggle is she's in a toxic relationship. And after getting out of that relationship, she's struggling with regaining her self-confidence. Sarai is Rochelle's best friend. They've been friends since childhood. You know, she's an aspiring horror author, and she comes from a conservative, like Christian background that doesn't approve of those aspirations. And also because she wears gothic clothes, she's kind of the black sheep of the family. Louise is kind of like, she's their friend. She's the friend to both characters, but she's kind of like a mentor to them because they learn magic from her and her mother because she is a generational witch. So she's kind of like their gateway into magic and everything. And they kind of learn how to embrace the powers they start to develop along the way, basically.
Dope. And of course, we wanted to get into the question of like, all right, what's like the symbolism of the title? Like Motor City Witches, like what got you to choose that as the title?
It's just, I guess I wanted something straightforward. It's like, it's about witches. They're in Detroit. And I couldn't go with Motown Witches because someone owns a shop with that name, so I couldn't take it. So I just went with Motor City. So I was like, I felt I wanted something straightforward to where if someone were to pick up that book, it's like this is what you're getting. Like I didn't want to sugarcoat anything.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So definitely. Like, what were like some inspirations in writing the book?
Well, definitely took a lot from personal experience. And like they say, for context, I am a practicing witch myself. So a lot of the practices you see in the books, I've took from like real practices. So it's just I wanted what things that inspired. I wanted a book that didn't just focus on like the spell casting and things like that. I also wanted to emphasize that there is a spiritual side to it as well. So I also wanted to put emphasis on that because a lot of the media you see about witches, like American Horror Story, movies like The Craft, is like they focus more on like the spells, but they kind of neglect that there's a spiritual aspect to it as well. And I wanted to write a book that puts focus on both.
Okay, and that is what like allowed you to like, all right, I'm gonna like make sure like there's so much spiritualism, so many spiritual messages in here, just
Yeah.
so like you can that way so the audience is like, all right, here's the full picture and not
Right.
just what you've seen in every show ever.
Right.
Yeah, I think one thing that I really enjoyed was the familial ancestor aspect of it. I
Yeah.
remember just like texting Meech about certain parts about it, and then I'm trying to think of a part without trying to spoil it, but like kind of a part where one of the characters had a realization about lineage like that, and then I was like,
Right.
oh wow, and then it tied into like a later part, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting wild. So I think I really like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yep. It was all it was like, oh snap, it's all the dots are
It's all
connecting.
connected.
It's all
Yeah.
I'm like, if you could imagine like basically this entire wall behind me, just like, all right, this from page 1 or like page 83, and then we like, all right, look at this in page 200. Like there's so much connections here. I was like, I feel like you did something out of George Lucas's book.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Manifest, and like with that, like everything is connected essentially is what it's one of the things that they say consistently, and that was definitely how it tied in was really good. So Meech, want to ask the next question?
Oh yeah. So of course, like when it comes to writing, there's people like myself and also our dear co-host here who may like insert themselves into the story. Like there's a specific character you kind of write as if it's like you're put into the situation, and like what would you do? Or like somebody who's like basically has more of your affectations in those situations. So like what so did you do that, or is that like a certain character who really pretty much embodied you?
I would say Louise, and because I actually modeled Louise after myself, not just in like looks, but also in like personality. Like I'm kind of a mentor to my friends, so it's like they come to me for advice a lot. And then it's also like Louise, I'm also a burlesque performer and I'm also an artist. Like the name of my art page is Roxy Joe Creations. So that's where that came from. The only difference between me and Louise is that she's a parent and I'm not. That's literally like the only difference between me and her. I don't have children, but she does.
Mhm. And what would you say, like with Louise, kind of like how they show how you talk about it later in the story, just like generational practicing? What kind of got you into that spiritualism slash like uh witching? I don't know what the proper term is, but kind of
Um,
that aspect.
I guess growing up, I've always been fascinated with like the supernatural and the paranormal. And it's just when I got older, I started finding friends that were practicing that practice, and I started doing research on it. And went through my research, I realized that path resonated with me. Because while my parents never forced religion on us or anything like that, if we had to identify as a religion as growing up, it would have been Baptist. But it was just like I started having a lot of questions when it came to religion because not trying to push an agenda, but just how it's a lot of contradictions in Christianity. There's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of contradictions. There's people who use the religion as a tool to hurt others, and that was something that never sat right with me.
Hmm?
So I just started looking into other paths, and then when I started looking into the occult and things like that, it resonated with me more, and I haven't looked back since.
Okay. Hey, that's a really fascinating. Hey, and thanks for like sharing that because I know that could
Yeah,
be like something like people like to keep personal because I like this. It's really great that you're like vulnerable with that and appreciate you for that.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, let's keep on the gravy train back to the book. So like, of course, you said like Luis is kind of embodies you.
Yeah.
Anybody? So like, is anybody else like based on like your friends or family?
So,
Anybody with a shout out?
like, not to sound cheesy, but each of the three characters have a piece of me within them. Like with Sarai, I relate to her struggle because like I used to be ridiculed for my hobbies and interests. So and so the whole her whole struggle for acceptance, that was something that I struggled with. With Rochelle, she struggled with insecurities because of a toxic relationship. And before meeting my husband, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. So that was something that I took and so my experience became Rochelle's experience. In fact, Lamar, who was Rochelle's boyfriend in the book, Lamar is actually my ex-boyfriend's middle name. I'm just gonna throw that out there. That it's his middle name. So I did base it off of him. But I think each of the characters have a bit of me in them. So there a lot of their struggles they go through, I was able to it was something I went through at some point. Now the heavy stuff Sarai went through, and I'm not going to give spoilers. I didn't have to deal with that. Thankfully, I was fortunate enough to have a loving and supportive family, but there's too many people in my life that weren't as fortunate that had to deal with toxic relatives, and that's where I got my inspiration for her from. But as far as other characters like Louisa's family, like her immediate family, they're definitely pretty much fictional versions of my family. Like her mother is just like my mom. Like Chris, like the characters' first names are actually the middle names of my family members. Like Christy is my mother's middle name. Then you have Louisa's siblings. They act just like my siblings. So I put my family I basically made fictional versions of my family for the book. For the book,
That's dope. That's dope. With that, kind of just like inserting yourself into characters. I know something that's mentioned a lot, especially in superhero movies, is your story is only as good as your villain. And we're mentioning like pieces, you mentioned pieces of yourself and characters. There are two scumbags in this book that stand out above everyone else. With that, what were your thoughts on it? Like in writing the characters, like how did you feel? Because I know when I like for my book, when I wrote characters, one of the villains I absolutely despised writing. Like it made me feel disgusting. And another one I actually really enjoyed. So like I know like what you kind of mentioned with Lamar, but like how did you feel about the other one as well?
so and I think you're talking about Thelma, Sarai's
Yes.
mom. So she is a combination of because like and of course you read the book, so you've seen like her how ignorant and how bigoted she is. She is a combination of a lot of ignorant people that I have encountered in my life, whether it's like strangers that I've encountered or people that I knew personally. And I'm sure there's people that have read my book saying no one can be this bad. But unfortunately, there are people like her that are out there. And it's like so it's kind of, I wanted to kind of make her realistic because unfortunately, I know people that were raised by a Thelma. So but yeah, writing the interactions with her, like there were times where I had to take breaks writing chapters with her in them because I would actually get legitimately angry because of the stuff that comes out of her mouth.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, which is wild because like you're writing it and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so like true to the character and you hate it so much. Because like as it was like progressing, I was like, okay, a person can't be this bad. And then it got to like a certain point really later in the book where it was like, Wow, you can. This is like a joke, like how evil this person is. So yeah, definitely. Wow, her and Lamar were just like, I can't.
Yeah. I know it's hard to believe that there are people out there that can be that bad, but unfortunately, I have came across plenty of Lamars and Thelmas. Like I dated a Lamar, so
Yeah, yeah, and like when I read those parts, like it was perhaps like slightly more triggering for me because I've seen those two types before. Like one of my homegirls dated a Lamar. We had to get her out the situation, and one of my teachers was a Thelma. And I'm not gonna get into that because he is a scumbag and he knows it. And if he's
yeah,
listening, you know who I'm talking about. You know I'm talking about you. That's me totally not processing the trauma from that at all.
yeah,
But yeah, it was like it really pulls in, like it got really personal, and I think like that's like an aspect that was like really great on your part when writing that, and we really deeply wanted to ask about that because like,
yeah,
bruh, I'm getting a like visceral, guttural, like emotional reaction from this. Just imagine like you writing that and where you had to
yeah,
pull that from. That was
yeah.
what really like just mm.
Yeah, and another scene that was hard to write. And like I said, I'm not going to spoil, but of course, it's mentioned in the beginning. Sarai is a twin. She's a fraternal twin, and her sister had mental health struggles and took her life when she was 13. That was hard for me to write the part where she does learn what led to that because like growing up I've had my own struggles with mental health. In fact, when I was 16 years old, I attempted to take my own life because I was going through a lot of bullying, which led to depression. So that was a hard part for me to write too, because I had to literally put myself in that character's shoes because I know how it feels to be depressed and deal with like self harm and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to spoil what led to that, but just, yeah, that was a hard one. That was a hard part for me to write also.
Yeah, that was the part I was at quote unquote work. For legal reasons, I won't say I was at work reading it, but that's when I texted you, Meech, and I was like, yo, I'm literally about to cry right now. Cause like just the way it built up and then like the reaction to that was just kind of just like, wow, that's so painful. And kind of like what you mentioned, like I don't personally know like someone that like had that situation where I don't want to spoil, but personally, that situation where it's like the mental health aspect is
Right.
viewed as like demons and stuff like that, get an exorcism. But I have heard stories of just kind of like
Yeah.
people not taking it as seriously, especially concerning the fact that mental health, I would say, past 5 years has actually
Right.
been a key thing. And before that, it's just kind of like get it together. So,
Right. And it's like, yeah, and I kind of wanted to emphasize when I wrote, like, you can't pray away mental illness. Not saying that you can't pray for like guidance, but one of my like one pastor, I forgot his name, said you can pray on the way to therapy. So it's like there's nothing wrong with getting professional help. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you.
Hmm. Agree wholeheartedly, especially as a counselor myself. So that was definitely something to definitely consider. But yeah, like of course you have that, and as I said, like just all around overall, this entire book was just it was just a great read from start to finish from my end, and just from the greatness, the realism, and you mentioned like there would be others, right?
Oh yes. So there's already, I think you already know, there's a book too. So there is a second book. I'm currently working on a third. So I'm currently working on the third one, and I'm thinking of writing a prequel on Louise because it's slightly mentioned in the second book. Louise came into her powers in her late teens. So if I write the prequel, it's going to take place in like her senior year of high school. And I know I'm gonna have to mentally prepare myself for that because like myself, Louise also dealt with bullying. So it's a matter of I'm going to have to relive all that trauma when writing it. So.
Mm.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be rough. But hey, I have full faith you can pull through. Of course, you got a humongous support system, especially with your husband, and I'm
Yeah,
sure you got like tons of friends to go to as well.
yeah.
So you can definitely pull through and do all that. And how many do you think like you plan on writing? Like for I guess like for the full 100% story, you have like a set number that like, all right, once we like
Yes.
reach this, it's over.
So there will be a prequel for Louise. I'm dancing with the idea of doing like another prequel, but it'll be focused on one of Louise's like ancestors. And I'm thinking of having it take place during like the Harlem Renaissance, so like 1920s, 1930s. So that's two. So in addition to the three books that I'm currently the first book, the second one, and then the third one, that's five right there. I'm thinking of possibly doing a spinoff, which may be two or three books. The spinoff would focus on Louise's daughter, and it'll take place like 15 years after the end of the third book. So she'll be a college student, and I'm thinking of putting some magical girl elements into that.
Ooh,
So
that's pretty dope. With that, I know like the one that you mentioned with the Harlem Renaissance, that's definitely gonna be, if you do that, a one that's gonna be raw, like with emotions, because a lot of times when people go back into the past and they use Black people going into the past, they kind of like sugarcoat it
yeah,
in a way of
Think
just
so.
like they they don't say it without saying it. So it'll be like, oh, so like one of the things me and Meech mentioned, we are like, okay, would you time travel? And I was like, I'm not going past 1970.
I was like,
There's no way.
ain't no way. I'm only going forward, my guy.
Yeah.
yeah,
So just like with your writing style, definitely, you would definitely attack that head on. I could see it.
yeah.
Ooh, I'm already getting hot and I'm just thinking about it. That's kind of wild.
Especially the 20s. Jeez Louise. So just like kind of with that. Yeah, so you building out your cinematic universe. There is one thing I want to touch on, again without spoiling, but I really liked how like accurate you were with one scene where it's later in the book, but essentially when Rochelle is working through her new relationship and then
Right.
somebody isn't happy with it because of reasons. And I was like, that is so accurate.
To this day.
Yes. If you remember that part, what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's so accurate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely had that. Never had that moment. Not gonna talk about it. Don't want to reopen that old wound. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah, so like going along those lines that you say about like filling out a whole cinematic or TV verse, like in live action, right? Did you like think of a particular actress to would play the main trio, Rochelle, Louise, and Sarai?
I never thought about Rochelle. I'm still thinking about that. Now, for Sarai, I would love to see her played by Gabourey Sidibe. And, like she played Precious and she also played, I don't know if you've watched American Horror Story Coven, but she
Yes.
played, Queenie. I would love to see her play Sarai. Louise, if I ever decide to do acting, I would not mind playing her. Now, as far as the villains, Lamar, Bow Wow, probably. I don't know.
Lights.
I can definitely see, even though Rochelle's mom is mentioned to be in her mid 40s, Angela Bassett can still play a 40 something. So I wouldn't mind seeing Angela Bassett play Rochelle's mother.
Our queen.
Um, Thelma, I'm thinking either Monique, probably.
Ooh, so you basically just went full Precious on that one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know if you ever saw the show P Valley.
I have
I
not
have.
actually.
It's It's a character where it's about a Mississippi strip club, and one of the characters has a preacher mother. And I remember watching the show. It's on Stars. I saw the show and I was like, did someone read my book and write this character? Because this is like a parallel to how Thelma is. But I don't know if you heard of the actress Lynn Whitfield. Like she's always known for playing villains, so I can see her doing that as well.
Yup. Immediately, yup.
Yeah. As
Yeah.
far as Sarai's dad, I don't know. I don't know who I would think to play her dad. So it's as far as Rochelle's new love interest, of course, him and his family, they would have to be Afro Latina, definitely.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's I never really gave much thought of who I would want to be played the other characters. But I know as far as Sarai, definitely Gabourey Sidibe playing her. I could definitely see Angela Bassett playing either Rochelle's mother or Rochelle's aunt, because she has that vibe about her, so I can see her doing that role justice.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So with that, are there any other projects that you're working on or like that you have? Like, would you be interested like in going pure horror in a sense, since that was a key element?
I haven't thought about it. I may do like a witchy anthology series, kind of similar. I don't know if you ever used to watch Tales in the Hood.
Yup. Yes.
I would like to do something like that, but add like witchy elements to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, the series was wild.
So some
The first one was definitely wild. Like when I first saw the first movie, I cracked up at the end when they realized they were in the funeral home and they realized they were dead. And then the famous line, "Welcome to hell," turned into the devil at the end.
Oh man, now you want me to? Now I want to go back and rewatch that movie because I have to. I have to now after we get off this call because I'm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a third. There's a third one.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a lot,
with Tony Todd.
Tony Todd.
Our guy. Oh.
Yes, Carol.
Yeah, Meech, you got something else?
Yeah. I just say like that was. I was also thinking like, because I was reading this, I was like, man, there are a bit of some American Horror Story Coven vibes that I was getting off of this. So I wonder if that was like a slight influence as well.
It definitely was. It was.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, as far as American Horror Story, Coven is like my favorite season, and especially with Angela Bassett, she was my favorite part of that season.
Yeah, I think a lot of them kind of went downhill after that one.
Yeah.
I think mine was actually, what was it? The Freak Show one.
Mm.
Oh wait, or was it Cult? It's always between those two.
There's like so
a lot of people say Roanoke was the worst one.
Yeah, that I can agree. Did not do Roanoke any type of justice.
Mm. All right, yeah. So, anything else you'd like to share about the book with that?
Just like for those that are interested on where to get the books, they're on Amazon. You can get copies on Amazon. If you're able to check out my social media, I have a Ko-fi page, and you can actually get digital copies that way. So that's how you can get the books. I also have a Wattpad page, so if you want to read a sneak peek into the first book, it's on Wattpad. My username is Jade Aurora 1989. And that's pretty much the username for all of my social media. So Twitter, Instagram, that's also my TikTok username. So,
Dope.
and also for those that are listening, do not let the cover art fool you. This book is not for kids.
Yeah, definitely not.
No, stay away.
Yeah, that's definitely not. All right, Amit, you got anything else?
Oh man, no, I just say like this was a great time, and thanks for wanting to come on our show. Like this was just fan, it was just a fun ride throughout. So many
Yeah,
laughs and talking about the deep stuff that does need to be talked about,
yeah.
and yeah, I've enjoyed reading it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I don't know if you read the second book because I think I sent you the digital version of the second one. That one's gonna get wild too, but also there you're gonna learn the origin of where like Louisa, like where her supernatural powers come from. Like you're gonna learn the origin of like where they came from. So
Ooh,
yeah.
Gosh, if it gets wilder than that scene, then my goodness.
don't even get me started, my guy. Don't even get me started.
All right. So with that, we're going to take a sponsor break and then get back to one of our favorite segments.
All right, so for today's sponsor, we have ourselves the Louise Academy of Witchcraft. In case you want a nice little urban academy to where you can become a wizard or a witch that goes beyond the realms of Hogwarts, don't at me. Come over here to the Louise Academy of Witches down in Detroit, Michigan. You will have yourselves a swell time. And now, just know that we are not responsible for any and all accidents, murders, or bigotry that will come as a result of joining the academy. Your discretion is advised.
All right. Now that we're back from break, we're getting into one of our favorite segments. This is a segment that I know is just gonna like end our relationship as friends and the podcast, especially if we keep arguing about aliens. So we're not gonna cover it today, but it's the random fan theory of the week. So Jade, what do you have for us?
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan of My Hero Academia, and there is a theory circulating that somehow that Deku's father is all for one.
Ooh.
Whoa. Can you explain that if you like have any information about it?
It's just because a lot of people came up who I don't know who came up with that theory, but basically it's just because his father is pretty much absent through most of the series.
Like all anime dads.
Yeah.
But
At least his mom's there. Barely.
now.
Like some people's other ways say that support that theory is that Deku's dad, when he took a job transfer to America, they said that could have taken place when All for One was injured by All Might, because the job transfer was never fully explained. And they also say that, Deku's quirklessness may not be natural. It may not be the fact that he was born quirkless.
Interesting. Especially considering that last episode that just happened yesterday as of this recording, where it kind of explained the powers of One for All. But yeah, with that, I feel like his mom would know that his dad didn't have eyes, I would hope.
Yeah.
But then it also kind of makes sense because why would they go to that doctor? The doctor who is responsible for all the chicanery for the beginning of this arc, and like why would they go to him to diagnose Deku as quirkless? That's you're bringing up valid points.
Speaking of My Hero Academia, like what do you think of Endeavor? Because it's like I get he's trying to atone for everything, but at the same time, it's like
take that since you've read further, since you actually read the manga, so you know more.
Oh yeah, so I'm just gonna say this right now. Yeah, man's trying to redeem himself, but this man has been basically on the back burner of his own arc, because basically he's pretty much shouldering all the burden on Shoto, and
Yeah.
yeah, he did some pretty unforgivable stuff. I'm not even gonna hold you. Bruh, you taking I would much sooner forgive Vegeta for everything he did than what you have done.
Dang.
Yeah.
I was literally going to bring up Vegeta because we just did that episode and we talked about like his whole arc of redemption. I think with Endeavor, it's hard to judge somebody's heart, but from where we are now, specifically because I'm an anime only watcher, I think he's trying. Like the tears that he had when he was crying for if you haven't watched, this is a spoiler for My Hero listeners.
For his son.
For his son. We'll just leave it at that. That was just like really like he saw the error of his ways, and then I'm trying to see where he like really transitioned, because like it was like right with like around the tournament arc, I would say he kind of started to transition, but definitely like once All Might had to retire, you saw that like change in him. So I say he wants to redeem himself, but just like going further into it to the fact that like his first like, well, all his children are essentially like bred children. They're not like children, quote unquote, in love, whether people see that or not, but like they were bred to be like superior, types of like that. They were science experiments in a sense.
In a way, I can respect Endeavor. Like he's not trying to make his children forgive him. He's just like, I just want to atone for what I've done. Mm-hmm. Like if you choose to forgive me, fine. If not, like you don't have to.
Yeah. So I think he's definitely trying his best. So I'm rooting for him, but like obviously he's not like one of my top characters in that show.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely not. Yeah, get bent.
All right. So just with that, another segment we're doing. I'm just going to consider it a Come Get Your Rose Black History Creator of the Week edition. So that's this week we're going to highlight a creator that we really enjoy each week. Somebody that's either, I always want to keep saying ancient, but a past creator or a current creator. Don't look at me like that. I don't know what the word is, but someone that we enjoy as a creator. And so someone that I think will end up being a GOAT at the end of their career is Ryan Coogler. So I was doing research on him, and I'm so surprised that his career doesn't start till like 2013, like officially, because just with that, reading off his his film list.
Filmography.
Yes. As a director, he directed Fruitvale Station. He directed Creed, Black Panther, and Black Panther 2. And he was a co-producer on Judas and the Black Messiah, co-producer on Space Jam: A New Legacy, and then executive producer on Creed 2. But just like something that I really respect about him as a creator, whether that be a director or producer, is that taking three of the movies, say Fruitvale Station, Judas and the Black Messiah, and then Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, all of those movies were very heavy topic material, because in two of the movies, it's about someone that dies. And then in Wakanda Forever, he had to deal with, Chadwick actually passing in real life. But like in a lot of biopics, people when people die, it's just like, okay, let's hit the highlights of their life as like a performer, and then okay, they did this mistake, and then they were like flawed, and then they died. But I think he does such a great job of making those characters feel like real people, and putting us with them, because like with Fruitvale Station, and Oscar Grant, I believe is the name. With Fruitvale Station, it covers his last 24 hours of life. And you just kind of really connect and bond with him. And then it's obviously something that keeps happening today with police brutality. And like you feel him as a character, and just like even the growth throughout the course of one day. Then Judas and the Black Messiah, he wasn't the director, but with that entire project, making Fred Hampton feel like not just like, obviously like he's the Black Messiah in the movie of the title, but as a real human being. And then also in Wakanda Forever, that was a very heavy movie. And like Meech, that was like the one movie once we started the podcast that we actually saw together, and just like the tears in the movie from people that we went with, where it's just like, this is really heavy. And the grace that you're able to handle it with is so incredible. So that's what I really like about him as a creator.
I mean, what else can be said about the man?
Yeah.
He just you took the words right out of the mouth. He did phenomenal work. And like every single movie that I see Ryan Coogler's name on, I immediately go see. Like it's a day zero. Like I have to be there at the premiere of it. And because he has definitely proven himself, and of course being a brother, like it makes it even that more stronger. And the fact he's like Jade here talking about the real stuff, the real things that need to be talked about. Stuff that like back in 2007 would not have seen the light of day. But these are things that like definitely are just part of the culture now. So yeah, I love the guy. All right. I'm watching everything he's in. I'll get like all the Blu-rays.
Yeah, and Jay, do you have anything you want to say about Ryan Coogler?
I mean, I can't really say anything that y'all have that hasn't already really been said about him. Like the man is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And just with that, there's a few short films. I don't know if they're even available to find, but I just wanted to highlight that he did before he blew up. But one is called Locks, another is Fig, and the third is The Sculptor. So if that's available, any listeners want to find it, you can definitely check that out. And just something else I want to point out is that the fact that he went from Fruitvale Station to Black Panther in 3 movies and is like a well-known name is just phenomenal and shows how talented he is. So with that, come get your rose, Ryan Coogler. So with that, we just had a really great time with you, Jade. So we're going to get into recommendations first, and then from that plug. So any recommendations that either two of you have?
So I do have a recommendation for a book series. It's not mine. But if you are a fantasy fan and you are looking for a series that's similar to Harry Potter, but what with Black characters, I highly recommend the book series Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. It takes place in Nigeria. It has African mythology. I highly recommend it.
Nice. And my main one was actually just gonna be your book, but if there's like another one that I'd want to like highlight is of course American Horror Story Coven. Like that was gonna be my main one right there the because story phenomenal. The Angela Bassett.
Yes.
That's all that needs to be said. And yeah, that's all that needs to be said.
I also have one more recommendation. If you're also a fan of the magical girl genre, check out Magnifique Noir by Brianna Lawrence. So far there's 2 books out, but they're amazing. And if you are a nerd, if you're into anime, especially if you're a fan of magical girls, I highly recommend it, and I believe it's available on Amazon.
Yeah. So my only recommendation, just because we're generally all in the same age range, but something that growing up that was really popular, Twitches. If you can watch that I think it's on Disney Plus. But Tia and Tamara Mowry.
Oh yes, that was I definitely was a fan of Twitches.
Oh, I almost forgot about that one. That is what Twitches and Twitches 2.
Right, you want to talk about people that I had a crush on growing up?
Oh yeah.
Wait, which one or both?
Both. Probably more Tamara than Tia, but it is what it is.
Okay. Because I was more Tia, but yeah, that's wild. That's wild. But
all right, so yeah, we're gonna get into our plug. So Jay, can you just plug everything one more time? We're probably gonna try to put it in do our best to put it in the description.
Okay, so the Motor City Witches 1 and 2 are both available on Amazon. You can also get digital copies on my Ko-fi page, and the username is Jade Aurora, is lowercase. I also have an Etsy page called Roxy Joe Creations. So there you can find my artwork. I have paintings. You can also download digital copies of my books from there as well. My TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter usernames is Jade Aurora 1989. But for the TikTok username, the username is lowercase. Just want to throw that out there. You can also follow me on Facebook under Jade Aurora, because that's where you'll find all of the updates regarding my books, as well as any performances that I have coming up. Also, if you are on Facebook, I have a discussion group for my book series. So just type in Moonlight Gang, a Motor City Witches discussion and fan group on Facebook.
Dope. Oh yeah, Meech. Our plugs technically.
All right, it is go time. So of course you guys know our Instagram and our Twitter is Blurred City 22. You know where to go to hit that follow, and then you also got to hit that bell and the subscribe button on our YouTube page, which is Blurred City Pod. And if you want to donate some cheddar, receive some extra content with some exclusive episodes, which we'll be dropping more of very soon, go ahead and check out our Patreon, which is under Blurred City Pod as well. We have our Discord channel, which will be popping soon on our Instagram page. And then finally, we have our email, which is blurredcity22@gmail.com, where you can submit your random fan theories or any other different segments. But most importantly, the Q&A, so questions that you have, because we're having against our better judgment, because somebody here wanted to do it, even though I said no. But you know what? I'm just going to roll with the punches. We're going to cause chaos. We're having a Valentine's Day Q&A session. So all you shippers, and let the shipping wars begin. And it will not come with the free tax. Okay. So yeah, just submit questions for that. And then finally, I have a pretty rogue TikTok page, especially with the last post I made, which is actually the highest viewed thing on my channel so far. So yeah, go follow me at the Rogue Jedi 21. So yes, so go ahead and tell the good peoples about yours.
All right. So for my individual author pages, you can catch my Instagram at Metri_dash. That's METRI_DASH. For my Twitter at the Mad-16. And if you want to read my book, Phantom Pains, The Most Irregular Tale, you can catch that on Amazon. Just like Meech mentioned, by the time of this recording, you probably have 3 more days to hit up our mailbag. So that's going to be our special Valentine's mailbag. Any shipping questions you have, any relationship advice for some reason you want to ask us, you've come to the wrong place, but we'll have fun with it. And just like with that, we're going to have next week, it's going to be our, best anime romances. So that's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be out of pocket episode. And then the week after, it's going to be a big episode. So our Ant-Man Quantumania review.
Woo!
So we're excited for that. And so Jade, another thing that we like to do as we when we have guests on, as we wrap up, we like for them to leave the listeners with words of encouragement.
Okay. So for those that are listening, I just want to tell everyone that even if people in your life or if the world tries to tell you otherwise, you are valuable, you are loved, you are worthy. Don't dim your light or cut yourself down for other people's comfort. If either blind them or let them choke.
I love that. I love that.
I felt that one in my soul.
I love that. So, listeners, as the music starts to overplay as I speak, like always, it's not goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for now. And that's the Blurred City Podcast.
See ya later.